So I promised that we will build a model train from scratch here in the next episodes. I have an ICE2 starter set here, and before we really go into landscaping, I thought to myself we will build ourselves a railroad crossing together. Many users want to have such a railroad grade crossing on their railroad system. Märklin sells such a fully automatic railroad crossing from their startup series. To do so, we will move the ICE to the side a little. I want to use this space in front of me for this grade crossing. Alright, let's move this up a little, back it up a little. That's the spot. We will leave it here for now. The grade crossing starter set contains actually everything that we need. Automatic railroad crossing means that the barrier closes automatically when the train comes and automatically rises again when the train leaves. Everything you need is in the set. Again, if you have any questions, post them in the comment sections. We will try to answer them all even after the video is over and everything is closed. I hope that we can help you. Okay, let's unpack this now. I have a look inside. What's in here is relatively manageable. The grade crossing is already assembled. That means you don't have to do anything with DIY and all of that. Everything is already pre-assembled. And what we have inside here are two special tracks. These are so-called contact tracks. They recognize if a train is passing over, and they also recognize when the train has passed. We will soon need these two tracks. In addition, I'll take out the railroad crossing. We have a third track included, and now we just have to see that we assemble this keeping the correct geometry in mind. Let's turn the whole thing around. This is what the whole thing looks like. We have 4 screws down here. We can also open them in order to expand the whole thing, since it can be a double track grade crossing as well. I create a little space for myself here on the system. The instructions are also included, of course. I've already got it ready beforehand so that I could prepare myself a bit. But you don't really need to do that, since it is really relatively simple. That's not much to do. You just insert the tracks, the 2 contact tracks, and then it is ready to go. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. Now let's see how long these tracks are, since we have to balance the geometry a little bit. And then I see these 2 tracks here are as long as one of these long 24188 tracks here. That means I can take this one out and it fits the geometry somewhat. I have prepared myself a track somewhere beforehand. I bought this track in addition to install it on the side as well to make sure the tracks are exactly in the right length there at the back. This track here is as long as this part of the grade crossing. And this track has the number 094, meaning 24094 is the article number. So the track is 9.4 centimeters long. I'll insert this one on the other side now, so the tracks are exactly parallel again and everything is working correctly. So here you can see 2 arrows. They have to be on the same side. That's very important. So if you did it like this, then it would be the wrong way around. They must be both on the same side. I place it before the grade crossing and after the grade crossing. And now it doesn't really matter where I put this railroad crossing. I have to create a little more space in here, so just get the ICE away from here so that I can reach the track over there. It's a plus when you have long arms when you're building such a model railroad system, because then you can reach over to the other side very easily. So now that's a bit easier there. I'll place this here. By the way, you don't need any tools at all for what we're building right now. Everything can be built completely by hand. So you don't have to pay attention to anything. We will, however, still have some special tasks. We need to do some handicrafting. A task for which a diagonal cutter would be practical. Now I place the railroad crossing here and then everything is actually already almost finished. Because I said the contact tracks ensure that the ICE is recognized when it passes over it, and that it is also recognized when he leaves this part. And now we just try it out and see if I have talked too much or if it's already working. I'm driving relatively slow with the ICE for now. When this train arrives here, the barrier must lower itself. And after the train has left the contact track, the barrier should go up again. Let's see if everything works. Hands off. And it's working. The train lowered the barrier, it flashes red, and now the train opens the barrier again. That was nice. And that's not witchcraft at all. So now it would be nicer, of course, if the barrier would already lower itself here and do not open up again until here. That would be much more realistic, of course. That means we can play around here a bit with our railroad system. Let's take out the complete grade crossing, and now we insert these tracks over here, for example. So after the ICE passed over here, then the barrier should already lower itself. And we set the barrier not at the beginning of the track, but we place it exactly in the middle of the track. That's much nicer looking. That means we set the other contact tracks here on this side. So now I'll reconnect everything, trying to place it right in the, well, not quite in the middle, but you could do that. You could also take a smaller piece than it fits to some extent. I put that here now. Yes, we do that now just for the test. It would be nicer when it closes a little earlier and then open up again later. It will not be working by simply putting it back together. I will demonstrate this anyways. We will start the ICE again and watch the barrier. It is already closed. And that's exactly the problem. The barrier doesn't even open because I do have to do some work with these 1, 2, 3 tracks here. And that's what we need the side cutter for. I'll show you very briefly. This is what it looks like. So a little kniper that we have here, using it, will cut open a track. I'll just take this one here and show you exactly how this works. Have a look at the back side. We see a little bridge that's basically the current flow. To make sure the current flows normally on this track, like it is the case with every normal Märklin rail. In this area, I cut through here now. I hope you can see that to some extent. I'll show you a little more precisely with a small screwdriver what we will cut through now. This little piece here, this little piece of metal here, we will cut through that now. We will cut open here and do the same on the other side. We will cut open that over here too. And we repeat that for the whole area. Here on each single track. We will do exactly that here. I have turned off the power and the barrier has opened. And that's exactly what we want to achieve right now. So I take this track out now and cut it here. Just clicked. Then I'll put that piece here down a little more so that there really isn't any connection anymore. And now I cut this through. I hope you can see it in some extent. There's no longer any connection between this metal piece and this metal piece. So I'll do the same on the other side of the track. Cut through there too and separate that. The track is not broken. So that's ultimately the same as if we had bought such tracks. Only difference that we expand and craft them ourselves. And I'm doing the same for the track before that too. Cut it through as well. I recommend to test this for one track first, then you already know that you got it right before you cut the rest of the tracks. But I do that now anyway on all these 3 tracks. And then that should actually work. So place it here and place it there, and then the other side again on these 2 sides. On this side up here, just cut it briefly here and cut it briefly down here too. Close it here and close it there, and it is also a bit of DIY fun. And now make sure again that the arrows are on the same side. So both sides face each arrow at the bottom of the rail. Same on the other side. And if everything was done right, and I hope I did it right, and I turn the track back on, then the barrier should stay up and not lower down themselves immediately. Hooray, that has worked. The barrier remains open. Now I don't need my tools anymore. With that I'm done. If the ICE comes closer now, starting from this track here, the barrier should lower itself and go up again, starting from this track here. And drive the ICE slowly over it. Oh, attention, here comes the demonstration effect again. I'll find out if I did everything right or not. Tension rises. and the barrier lowers. Remains closed, still closed. And after the ICE has left the last contact track, the barrier goes back up. Worked perfectly here in this little tutorial. Let's speed up the ICE a little, then you can see the effect as well. Depending on how fast I drive with the train, this contact group can be placed a lot further ahead or further back. We could totally beautify this even more now through cutting open even more tracks, no matter how many. I might as well place this contact track up here on the side and could cut the entire curve here too. Or when you think to yourself, well, I just took out a track, they are both of the same length, and I had just bought this third track, I could just as well insert this track here. Then my oval is just a little bit longer, and then it just goes down here. Then it's not quite a round circle anymore, it's a bit more like an oval. But you could also use that. Then you don't need to buy an additional track. You just have length the circle and the radius eases a bit, and then the curve is a bit somewhat diffused. All you have to do is to cut open this little bridge in the rail, and then you can extend the entire contact track strand as desired. And I would say that for such a fast ICE, the crossing should start lowering already here. So it would be enough to stop here again. Then the train could pass with high speed if it is recognized early enough. On a smaller scale model railroad, it should be enough if the section is a little shorter. So when you have a small steam locomotive or a small diesel locomotive that drives slower, for example, then it's okay if the section is a little shorter. Then the train is recognized later. We tested again with the slower speed here. The barrier lowers now in the time until the ICE arrives. And now you can see here very nicely that these signals are flashing here, respectively that the grade crossing flashes with the St. Andrews cross here on the side. So, short little sequence before we move on next time. Of course, we will deal with landscaping next. I will slowly start to build the houses, and I would like to slowly build up high a little. So I build railroad routes and see which kind of gradient is possible. Let's see what the landscape could look like. So how about a mountain or tunnels? That's what the next episodes will be about. It will be very exciting. Now we can slowly start to have some fun landscaping. So be our guest and watch. Feel free to ask your questions in the comment section. I'm also happy, of course, if you are subscribing the channel and about your reactions to this video as well. And don't forget, you can find everything in the description text of this video. Have fun until then.